There are three must things to do in order to find hope after loss. These three things I want to share with you today have to do with story. Everybody has a story. It's been said everybody's got a book in them, because I think that's true. I don't know if they can write the book, but everybody's got a story that I call make sense of the nonsense. And I'm going to tell you a story today and about this man that I would consider the worst man I have ever personally been around. And I'm going to call him Bernard. And my wife and I were doing a marriage retreat, and a bunch of couples were coming for the weekend. And when Bernard's turn comes, he only answered the first question. We had a few questions to get them started, and one of the questions was, "What is your name?" And the other is, "Where are you from?" And the other one is, "Why did you come to this marriage retreat? What prompted you to come?" And so he told us his name, Bernard, and he's from so-and-so, so-and-so, and that's the only two questions he answered. For the next 20 minutes, now remember we gave him about 2 to 3 minutes to share. For the next 20 minutes, he talked endlessly about his accomplishments in his life. He was a surgeon. He was renowned. He won all these medical awards. He won, Doctor of the Year, greatest guy of the year in his hometown, in his state. He told us all his accomplishments. He had this guy was all about himself. His wife was totally embarrassed. She left upset that night. That was not good. And so the next day, we had some other questions to suggest they talk about that had to do with their marriage, and he didn't answer any of them. For 20 more minutes, 25 minutes, he rambled on and on about how great he was, how smart he was, what his IQ was. His wife got up and she was crying, and she just left. They were there to try to save their marriage, it turned out, and he was not making it any easier. Well, the next day they came back, and they were both there, and he looked different. I mean, he was the same guy. Now, this guy's probably in his 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and when they came to the retreat, she's in her 40s. So that day, we had another group session, and we were going to go share some information. Well, he got up again, and everybody held their breath. Nobody liked him. Now, I'm going to tell you what he said, and I'll kind of bleep the bad words. When he got up to speak, this worst person that changed my life, he got up to speak, and he said, first of all, I am the biggest blank hole that's ever walked the face of the earth. That's what he said. The first words out of his mouth. Everybody there, I was standing in the back, everybody there went, "Yeah, that's about right, Bernard. You certainly are that." And then he said, "I've hurt this woman who this is my 5th wife, and all the others never have loved me like this woman has. She's loved me. She stayed with me. She is the light of my life. I have treated her horribly, terribly. I have hurt her with my words. I have dominated her. I have controlled her. I have been a terrible husband to her. And the last 2 days when I was here, I have hurt her even more, and I deeply apologize." This guy's probably 5'3". He had a cane. He was stooped over, 75 to 80 years of age, walking back and forth, could hardly walk when he came. And then he said, "I grew up in Poland. And my father was a renowned doctor, and he was very prestigious, very wealthy. We had this huge house. We had a great life. I was like 7 years of age, and I remember distinctly what happened one day. My father, and we were Jewish, and I'm still Jewish," he said. Now, maybe you can get, this is in the early 40s, when they lived in Poland when he was a little boy. And he told us this story that his father came home one day in panic mode and said, "Throw things in a suitcase. We got to be out of here in 10 minutes. The Nazis were after them. Their friends were being arrested and thrown into prison. Many were shipped to Auschwitz, the German concentration camp." And Bernard told us they barely escaped with the clothes on their back and a few small suitcases. And they barely escaped the Nazis, and they somehow had connections because the father was wealthy, and he had connections, and they got on a boat, and they sailed for America after they came to New York City, and his father lost everything. Their family lost their house. They lost all their money. They lost every possession except they had each other and a few clothes. That's what they had. They found this apartment to live in New York, and the father found work at a factory, and he worked from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, 7 days a week. And Bernard had a little brother, and they stayed in this little old room, and his father would come in at night. He was a bitter old man. The father became so bitter at what happened to them and their family, and who can blame him, right? And the father came in, and Bernard said, for some reason, he drugged me out of bed like 3 or 4 nights a week. He drugged me out of my bed, never had a reason, never had an explanation. He took this iron rod and he started to beat my legs, and he did that night after night. I can barely walk. I've been like this for years, and if you saw my legs, they're just all scarred up and messed up. And Bernard said, I guess I've been a bitter old man like my daddy. And I need to apologize to my wife, and I need to apologize to the people I've hurt. I need to apologize to this group of people that came here for this weekend, and all I can say is I'm so very sorry. Well, that's the worst man I ever met, and within a matter of 5 minutes, he became a great influence in my life and in all the lives of the people who heard the story. Our opinion of Bernard changed radically. So you say, David, why do you tell us that story? Well, the worst man that I ever met gave me hope to not quit. And when he told his story, 3 kind of things jumped out at me. You know, everything's in threes with me. Okay, it seems like. But how does the story give us hope in the midst of grief and loss? Well, Bernard had experienced tremendous loss. He had never classified what he went through as loss. He had buried it. He had stuffed it. And what happens when you stuff it, it comes out in various ways, right? And you don't even know why you're angry or why you're bitter or why you treat people wrongly or why that person treated you. You don't even think about it. You just say, well, they're awful people. Well, Bernard wasn't an awful person. In fact, I love the man and loved him. People's stories give us hope. You say, David, how do people's story give us hope in the midst of loss? This guy had suffered great, great loss 40, 50 years earlier, 60 years earlier. And he finally started to speak about his pain. You've got to speak about your pain. You've got to give voice to your pain. You've got to give voice in a safe environment that nobody's going to throw stones at you, right? And there's 3 things I want to share briefly about Bernard's story. Number 1, he had to accept the things he could not change. You've heard the Serenity Prayer, probably all of you have, no matter what your background is. Some things I can't change. I cannot change one thing about my background in my life, my past. There's this statement I used often. I got it from Dr. Joe Beam when he did one of his marriage workshops, and it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And if you said that to Bernard, he would say, what do you mean it's not too late? I did not have a happy childhood. I had a horrific childhood. So what does that statement mean? It's not too late to have a happy childhood. He had to accept what he could not change. He could not change the fact that they lost their home in Poland, that the Nazis almost got to him. He could not accept he could not change the fact that his father became bitter and his father beat him. And yes, Bernard achieved great success in life, physical life, making tons of money, in order to make his father proud, because his father beat him every night. His father wasn't proud of him. And Bernard had to prove to his father that his father could love him, and he did it in all the wrong ways, except the fact that he could not change. Nothing he could do could change the fact of what the Nazis did to their family. Nothing he could do could change it. There's this statement we use in our retreats. The statement is powerful. It comes from a book by A.L. Williams in the 1970s. I was alive in 1970. I don't know if you were, because I'm old, right? But in the 70s, A.L. Williams, an insurance guy, wrote a book, and the title of the book is literally this. You can look it up. All you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. You cannot do what you cannot do. Any attempt to do what you cannot do results in frustration and failure. So if Bernard tried to change what happened, if he didn't accept what happened, and he didn't accept it, he stuffed it. He had never given voice to that pain until that day that he kind of broke in front of all of us, and he became everybody's favorite person at the retreat. But see, I had a mom who drank a lot. And when I was growing up, my mom, who, by the way, quit drinking late in life, and the last 20, 30 years of our relationship together was great. She was a great mother. But during my teenage years, I didn't like my mom. I loved her, but I didn't like her. She got drunk every night. My older brother and older sister went off to college. It was me and mom. Mom and dad separated before they got back together. And from 7th grade till 12th grade, every night of my life, my mom was drunk, almost every night. And then I went off to college, and I'd call home, and she'd been drunk and drinking. And, I had a lot of struggles with my mom. I never told her any of those struggles. I had to accept the fact that my mom did that, and I couldn't change anything about the past. You can't change anything about the past. Some of you have lost the dearest on earth to you. It could be a child. It could be a grandchild. It could be a spouse. You might have lost somebody to divorce. You might have lost a parent. You might have lost many people to death, and you also have non-death losses from your past. It could be a father who left, never remembered your birthday, never attended your high school graduation. My mom, by the way, did not attend my high school graduation. She was home. She decided not to go. It was more important to her at that time to stay home and get drunk, I guess. That's kind of harsh, isn't it, David? Well, no. Not that harsh. It's the way I felt. She didn't care enough to go to my high school graduation. I've hardly ever told anybody that. You're privileged. I can't change that. Many people have lost somebody so precious to them, stay stuck in the pit of grief because they have not accepted the fact that life is not going to be the same. Any attempt to make life the same it was before the loss will be met with failure. I want to repeat that. Any attempt you make to make life the way it used to be before the loved one died, if it's a death loss, will be met with failure. You cannot go back and have life the same. Part of our mission at Spark is to help give you hope, to walk beside you, and to help you have hope that though life can never be the same again after devastating loss, life can still be full of joy and purpose. But I got to accept the fact that life won't be exactly the way it used to be. Life's forever changed. Do you think Bernard's life was forever changed when his father started to beat him, when they had to leave Poland? Well, yeah, his life was forever changed. And see, so how can Bernard get through this? He's got to understand something about his story too. See, Bernard has a story that makes sense of his nonsense. You think his dad had a story? Well, we know what his dad's story was. We know part of it. He lost everything because of the Nazis. He did nothing wrong. And he became a bitter man. He became bitter. So Bernard's dad had long since died. And what can Bernard do about it? He can't change what happened. What he can change is, and that leads us to point number 2, to change the things you can change. Accept the things you cannot change. But if I'm waiting, for example, for my mom to come back and apologize to me for getting drunk every night, well, mom's been dead since 2009. Mom ain't coming back to say she's sorry. We never talked about it. I never talked about my feelings to her about what those years did to me. But I forgave her. But mom never said she was sorry. So if I'm waiting for mom to come back from the dead and say, Dave, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I'm going to be waiting a long time. I can't change any of that. But I can change. Point number 2, change what you can. What can I change? I can change my view of it. Not the reality, not the facts, but how I respond to that. I can change my attitude. I can change my will. Viktor Frankl, Auschwitz, couldn't change the fact that he lost everything and he went to that. He didn't escape like Bernard's family did. Frankl went into that prison camp. I talk about Frankl all the time. Viktor Frankl, man's search for meaning. He had to accept what he couldn't change. He had to change what he could. What could he change in that concentration camp? He could change his mind. He could change how he viewed it. He could change what he did with that crap. And part of that is I grieve it, but then I can get up and change my response to it. My first response is deep grief. That's normal and natural. Don't short circuit that. But I don't want to stay in deep grief, so I change what I can change. So what do? I get up, I wash my face, previous videos, other videos. I do the next right thing, whatever it is. It might be to have a good cry. It might be to get up and wash your face and go help somebody and email somebody and encourage somebody with words of life today. It might be a million little things. And that's what Bernard did that day. He changed what he could change. And that's his attitude, his will, his mind. I am not going to let the crap of the past define me. I'm not going to let the losses I've experienced, the devastation I've experienced define me and defeat me. For a while, it does, because that's called deep grief crap, and it sucks and it stinks. You got to go through that. I don't have the wisdom to tell you how long that lasts, but I know this: in the midst of me struggling with deep grief, I have the ability every now and then to get up and wash my face, and you've done it a lot without realizing it because you felt so defeated, and get up and do one thing that helps propel you forward. And it might be speaking words of life to somebody else. Bernard taught me this: it's never too late. He's near 80 years old. He made a change in his life. That's why he's a hero of mine. That's why stories can change your life. The last point, Bernard taught me all losses in context of my entire life. We teach this at our Spark of Life retreats and our online course, but Bernard taught me it's never too late. And he taught me that everything's in context. Retreat, he was in a safe space, and then he finally comes out with the real story. And the story makes sense of the nonsense, and it helped his wife see maybe this guy's not a monster. It helped us all see he's not a monster. Now, story does not justify wrong actions. I still have to pay consequences for bad things I do that come out of a background of hurt and pain. But if you knew their story, you wouldn't hate them. You still have to deal with the consequences, right? Bernard had a lot of pain to overcome in his life, but his wife had a lot of pain that he had brought onto her because he had kept that stuff stuffed. So what does that do for you? Well, one thing I want to encourage you to do is give yourself some grace. Stop doing things that hurt other people, but try to find a space that, and that's what we try to offer at Spark, is a safe space. In our coaching, in our online course, in our in-person retreats, online retreats, we want to offer a space that's safe for you to give voice to your pain, to stop hurting yourself, and to get up and wash your face and take small steps to live forward. So the final point is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Please keep it simple. Do one thing today that propels you a little further in this hope journey through your loss, through your grief. Know this, that you have the power within you to get up and wash your face and take this big a step. And if you ever think it's too late, I want you to think of Bernard, the old geezer that became everybody's friend because he finally got real. And if Bernard can do it, you can do it. At Spark of Life, we believe there's always hope. There's always hope. There's always hope. Please give us a call. Write us, sparkoflife.org, sparkoflife.org, where there's always hope.